Hey guys, Woody the Unexceptional Gamer, and it's a good year to be a nerd. Everybody is outraged over the fact that the PS4 is allocating 3.5 gigs of RAM to their operating system and only 4.5 gigs to the games, but you shouldn't be outraged, and I'll explain why. So, listen up, I'm about to throw a bunch of numbers at you. On the Xbox, the breakdown between operating system and games is 3 by 5. 3 gigs to the OS, 5 gigs to the game. On the PS4, it's similar, but it's 3.5 by 4.5. Close, right? I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But the PS4 was rumored to be 0.5 to 7.5. So there's a lot less RAM for games than they thought there was going to be, and people are mad. But they shouldn't be, and here's why. In this generation of consoles, I'm talking about the PS3 versus the Xbox 360, Sony was caught somewhat flat-footed by not allocating enough RAM to their operating system. The reason that there is no party chat on the PS3 is that they don't have enough RAM, right? They're just down out of luck. And in my opinion, they blew it, right? In terms of hardware, Sony did some stuff right. You know, I really like that there's an included Blu-ray player. But in terms of like the processor and the RAM and things like that, they really did a bad job, which is why games like Call of Duty don't run quite as smooth on it. And it's why the things other than games don't work quite as well. There's no party chat. Everybody misses the party chat feature. But there are other things, in like, you know, is HBO Go on the PlayStation? I don't think it is. There are other little clients, Facebook integrations, Twitter, random bullshit that you probably don't care about. The reason that stuff is on the Xbox and not the PlayStation is that they don't have enough RAM devoted to the operating system. And somebody asked me, a nerd friend of mine right before I made this video, isn't it flexible? Can't they do this? No. When you work with finite resources like a console does, when you have the ability to tell them in advance what you have, developers have a preference for knowing exactly what they're getting in terms of hardware, so they can, you know, think of it as a sponge that's almost dry, and they just squeeze it and twist it until they get every last ounce of performance out of it, every drop. Well, they want to know exactly how much RAM they have to work with. They would rather have 5 gigs of RAM all the time than 5 gigs of RAM sometimes and 6 gigs and a half some other times. They're like, just tell me what I have to work with and I'll work with it, but don't sit there and change it on me at random things. Don't tell me my game will run okay now, but I'm going to get frame rate issues if the guy's checking, you know, whatever, sharing something on Facebook at the same time he's playing. That's why they have these allocations set up in advance, while PC players don't. PC players, it's more flexible and you're just supposed to have extra resources. So, the reason that PS4 players shouldn't be mad that there's a lot of allocation toward the operating system is because these consoles are going to last for a while. It's going to be, I don't know, I'll make up a number, 5 years, 7 years from now, you'll still be playing this console. And you want your console to be able to adapt to what's new. The examples I've given you so far, I don't even like. I don't like hearing that, you know, the reason that we need all this RAM is so that I can use Facebook, right? I don't want to use Facebook on my console. I think it's a crappy interface. I don't want to hear about Twitter or these other things. But there's something that I will want, right? You know, if going forward my Netflix client sucks on the PS3 because they didn't have the foresight to allocate RAM, that would upset me, right? If going forward there's some other amazing feature like the DVR on one system starts outpacing the other because one has RAM and one doesn't, then that would upset me. And the fact that Sony and Microsoft have both made the same decision in allocating roughly the same amount of RAM, 3 or 3.5, tells me that it's probably roughly the right amount of RAM, and that, you know, the things aren't so darn bad. So there you have it. You know, in terms of the hardware advantage, I still think that it goes to the PS3 somewhat. I think that, you know, they're going to be, it's a slightly quicker console, even though it has slightly less RAM for the games to live in. But it's it's funny though. Like, you know, here's something that tips the scale at least a little bit in favor of Microsoft, and you know, more and more, I think that the consoles are coming out kind of even. You know, people don't want to hear this. They want to hear that the PS4 is, you know, head and shoulders above the other. But when you look at the processor, when you look at the RAM, when you look at the throughput, when you look at the cache, these consoles are very competitive with each other. More so than I think you generally hear on the internet. And Sony did not blow it by giving their operating system enough RAM to breathe. They did the right thing. I can't tell you what great feature they would have missed out on, but it would have been something that the Xbox offered and the PS3 didn't if they kept it too tight. Leave a comment. What I'd especially like to know is, did this make sense? Was it persuasive? Do you see why Sony had to allocate a lot of RAM to their operating system so that they could keep up with all the extras on top of gaming that the Xbox One is going to be able to offer, because they gave a lot of room to their operating system too? Let me know what you think. Did it make sense? Talk to you later.